Welcome back to the Modern Dad Society podcast, where we understand that our children learn from our actions, not just our words. We believe in personal development, highlighting the powerful influence of staying present and making conscious choices and shaping our lives and the legacy we pass down to the next generation. I am your host, Shazer, and like always, take a deep breath in, hold it, and exhale, being present in this very moment with gratitude in your soul and love in your heart. Thank you so much for joining me. If this is your first time, make sure you follow me on social media platforms. That's TikTok, that is Instagram, Facebook. We have a Facebook group, X, and you can follow me there as I put out content for you to enjoy. If you don't know, we are also on a series called The 7 Laws of the Modern Dad. While I will start discussing different topics, every once in a while, I'm going to have some guests come on to share some information based off of these 7 laws. And so today we are on we're talking about emotional intelligence, and which is going to be law 4. And I'm excited because this is a very triggering topic. And it's part 2 of part 1, the power in spanking your children. So part 2, and we have a very special guest today, Gabriel Hannans, which is the author of the groundbreaking book. This is Parenting, Demystifying Parenthood. Gabriel's work is a refreshing take on an old age tradition, challenging conventional parenting techniques and encouraging us to rethink how we raise our children. His book dives into behavior modifications, the origins of modern parenting, skill acquisitions, and more, offering a wealth of knowledge for any parent looking to adopt more gentle, authoritative approach. Gabriel's book has garnered many reviews, which I've personally seen, great reviews, with many readers praising its eye-opening insights and into gentle parenting. And while others have critiqued, like anybody would critique this idea, despite this, he stands firm on what he believes, which is powerful. And many parents can find value from the tools that he's sharing. So in addition to writing, Gabriel is also a dedicated one-on-one coach, helping parents navigate the complexities of parenthood and implementing strategies outlined in the book. And so today we're going to explore some of these strategies, discussing the importance of questioning traditional parenting techniques and learning more about Gabriel's journey into parenting and coaching. So buckle up and let's get ready to dive deep into the art and science of parenting. So welcome, Gabriel, to the Modern Dad Society podcast. How you doing?
Pretty good. How you doing? Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. I'm excited. I know I was talking to you before we start recording and just saying how, I love how we're having this discussion, as this generation of millennials leading the way for the next. It's important for us to, redefine where that standard is, redefine what it looks like, when it comes to, being having authority over your children, gentle parenting, what's too aggressive, what's, how are you, if you're not being hard enough. It's so important to discuss these things. And specifically, when we look at the idea of spanking our children, is such a huge one. It was for me when I was a child, I told myself I would never spank my kids. It didn't make sense to me. Call me the black sheep of the family. Call me whatever you want to call me. Just don't call me late for dinner. But no, seriously, I want to use that. I heard that the other day. But no, I just knew it. I knew that I did not want to spank my children. And, but when we have our parents and they spank us and they tell us these compelling stories of like, this is going to hurt me more than hurt you, or spare the rod, spoil the child, we start believing that this is something that's acceptable regardless of how it feels. We're like, this is discipline. This is punishment, And so today I want us to kind of discuss that. Because I love your insight on what you've shared on social media, on TikTok and Instagram, and I definitely want us to dive into that. So my first question is the obvious question. Why do we believe that spanking our children is okay? Like, where did this come from? Other than the obvious reasons, but like, where are we in understanding why this is something that's so important for some parents.
So if I'm understanding your question correctly, you're asking the origin of spanking, why we think the way we do about spanking.
Yeah, most people, right? Maybe not us, but general people who believe that either think it's okay or may not have an understanding of whether it's okay or not. For those people is explain to them like where did it come from? Like yeah.
Okay, so uh you're not. A lot of people aren't going to like my answer, but it's backed by fact.
Okay.
It's conditioned, it's learned, and it's also survival.
Mm,
So, what do I mean when I say that? If we're looking at spanking as it exists, it can be traced back to ancient Europe. So, corporal punishment for children goes as far back as ancient Europe. Specifically, let's look at the Spartans in the Agoge, when they would take these kids who were like 5, 6, 7 years old and put them in this place where if they were caught stealing or they were caught lying, their masculinity, their manhood was determined by how well they could take a beating. And these kids were so traumatized that they were raised to be desensitized to war, and they were great soldiers. There were other things that they did, of course, but the spanking, the beatings, the putting them into traumatic situations led them to become amazing soldiers. 100%.
mm,
That had a purpose for survival. That had a purpose for when war was a thing that they did up close, hand to hand. Now in the 21st century, in 2024, that is so outdated. But as it trickled down through the centuries, it went to other parts of Europe where the concept of discipline literally meant to guide. The same way you would guide a sheep is the same way you would guide your child. You would correct them, of course. You would, poke them with the stick to get them back on path, or you tap them with the cane to let them know, hey, you're going too far. But it wasn't a beating. It wasn't a corporal punishment. You weren't beating them to get them to move on path. You just tapped them on the side to let them know, like, you're going too far in one direction. And so 12th century France, the word discipline turned into something that meant literally to spank, corporal punishment, to beat, to correct through punishment. And from that point on, it spread throughout the world with the advent of colonization and slavery, and that was conditioned into the people. So today we have Black and brown parents who engage in spanking for the purposes of ensuring that their children can survive in a world that is not always geared towards them. You have a lot of white people who beat the fire out of their kids because that's been something that's been conditioned into them. And ironically, if you look back at the royals of history, royal children were not spanked. A lot of them had whipping boys that would
mm.
grow up beside the prince, and they would spank the prince, or spank the whipping boy instead of spanking the prince himself, because they knew the detriment it could cause to the prince. So it's really just a lower population mindset used to keep people in systems of if I really want to say it, oppression and mental anguish and trauma. That's really a perpetuation of that trauma cycle. So that's kind of where it came from. That's why we still believe that it's okay to do.
That's interesting. I've heard about the spanking boys before. It's been a long time. I completely forgot about that, but that's powerful. That's to know, and it's funny because that kind of goes into my next question. Is you know, there's so many different effects like that it does mentally, and what's your thoughts on our children's mentality and how that affects them mentally and emotionally when it comes to spanking?
So I am a seventh grade middle school teacher, and I work with kids that are teenagers that are at the age where they can, one, remember their childhood, but also you can start to see where a lot of that childhood trauma is starting to manifest. I was standing next to a kid in class, and I raised my hands. I'm a very gestural person, and I raised my hands, and she ducked. And I
Mm,
was like, "Girl, are you okay?" And she was like, "Yeah. I thought you were going to hit me. Why do you think I was going to hit you? My parents hit me." Oh. And
mm,
it's a normalcy. It wound up into a 5-minute conversation about the things that their parents do to them. Now, I could either call CPS on the entire class, which I'm not going to do, or I can just recognize it for the normalcy it is and then try to continue with my platform of teaching parents something else that they can do. But it happens a lot. A lot of kids are developing anxiety, depression, borderline personality disorder, bipolar disorder. There are so many different mental illnesses that are coming as a result of the trauma that they received when they were children, or even more recently, we have evidence of trauma being passed down genetically through epigenetics. So the same trauma that a person experienced during, like, say, the Great Depression and a fear of not having food, that can trickle down the genome to other children up to 6 generations that we've seen thus far.
Wow.
So it can also lead to things like precocious puberty, where we have seen evidence of girls developing early because of the amount of stress inducing trauma that's been caused by spanking and corporal punishment. So it spanking, hitting your kids, beating your kids, whooping your kids, popping your kids, anything that's inducing stress over a longer period of time causes neurological issues. It actually increases the gray matter in your limbic system. It reduces the amount of gray matter in your prefrontal cortex. We've seen this. We know definitively that it's a thing.
Wow. That's so, and I jumped the gun a little bit, and I forgot to address that you were in education, which is amazing because, I can imagine the things that you have seen, and how the children that you teach respond to simple gestures based off of, what goes on at home. And I think it's so wise for you to say, okay, it's not always about the children, it's about their upbringing. So let me go ahead and put information out here for the parents so they know what to do. So I don't have to deal with this at school, like at least I can kind of, work on two ends of it. So that's great. That's, and then it makes your job a little easier too. Cause it's like, I don't have to talk to little Timmy, cause little Timmy is going to get talked to with a parent because they watch my video. So they know right from wrong, so that's awesome. And, you said something too, that was interesting. You know, cause I noticed that being raised in a black family, obviously, we hear it from our friends and stuff like that when it comes to, us getting beat and, our parents. And I did some research and found that a lot of the times, especially, fathers will discipline their children harsh because they understand, being black and out in society, they rather have some type of control over the discipline instead of them going out to the real world and get disciplined in a way that can ultimately take their life. And so, I don't believe it's a good excuse to assert your strength in certain ways because of that. But I know that is valid. I know that the fear is valid, and I know it's very important. But at the end of the day, like you said, like this really messes with their mental state and their emotional state, and I can't imagine how much it breaks their confidence and self-esteem later. And man, I was
May I
in trouble.
actually hit on that point?
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, good. Yeah.
Uh, I was going to say, because I've heard that growing up my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm beating you now so the cops won't have to later.
Mm.
But when you're looking at it critically, it doesn't make sense. Because if we're being honest, the amount of prevalence of spanking in black and brown households, that should have saved the lives of Ahmaud Arbery and Philando Castile and Elijah McClain and Michael Brown and Sandra Bland, and pick somebody. It should have saved their lives.
Right.
But we see that it didn't, because the correlation it's not the same. It's not correlated. You can't, spanking your kids is not going to protect them from a system that's meant to disparage them in the first place. It doesn't make sense. Spanking me is not going to protect me from people who just want me unalived no matter what.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying? So you've been conditioned to believe that that's a thing, but when you're looking at the data, one of these things is not like the other.
Mm-hmm.
The math ain't mathing. You can be Elijah McClain played violin for kittens at an animal shelter, and he was killed for wearing a ski mask. There's no amount of spanking that would have saved his life. George Floyd died unarmed for having a counterfeit $10 bill. I don't care what his past was like. That didn't justify what was happening, and spanking him didn't save his life.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. And in fact, it would actually increase the likelihood of it happening. Substance abuse, aggressive behavior, low impulse control, sexual abuse, hypersexuality, all of those things can be a result of getting spanked. That would lend more credence to that happening. So it's
Mm,
quite literally the opposite of what we're trying to push. And we have to recognize as a community that it doesn't make sense.
no, no, it definitely doesn't. Um, but okay, and I love that idea because it goes to show that it doesn't matter, like you said, how many times you spank them, life is going to hit the way life is going to hit. What about the parents that they want to have control, control over their child, and they feel like fear is the way to get them to take control over their children. What is it like? Does that even work, or how much can you push on a child to get them to do what you want before it's too much?
So my dad is he was a former Marine. He served in Vietnam. My dad was a lieutenant officer for the Atlanta Police Department. Served 31 years. My dad is 6'3". My dad was 200 something pounds. This is not a small dude. And I'm tiny. I'm skinny. I was a skinny little tiny little thing. And my dad ruled by that same mindset. Fear,
Mm,
fear, fear, fear. Until I got taller than him. Until I started taking martial arts. Until he started getting older and weaker and I started getting older and stronger. And what I don't think parents realize is the point of gentle parenting or authoritative parenting or raising your kids just with respect is that fear is not sustainable. And everything that we try to do is sustainable. I don't want you to fear me. I want you, as my friend says, I want you to be afraid of how much you love me.
mm,
Not literally, but I want people to understand that what's more sustainable? You being so afraid of me that I have to keep upping the ante of what causes fear, which can lead to trauma, or being so kind and loving and giving you all the skills necessary for you to be in life independently. And that doesn't mean that you can't correct them. That doesn't mean that you can't hold them accountable. That doesn't mean that you can't speak sternly. That doesn't mean that you can't get angry. It means being so in control of yourself and so in love with your child that you want to keep them on a path that is going to help them while also letting them be fully themselves. I can't do that with fear
mhm.
because they'll be too afraid to try something that will breed that independence. I
Yeah.
went to college with so many dudes who did not know their butt from a hole in the ground because they were so afraid of their parents that they didn't want to make any mistakes. They did not progress that far in life. Versus my mom, who loved me, showed me that she loved me, put me in places where I could live my life with the parameters that she provided. I did not want to let her down more than I was afraid of her. I wanted to live the best life I could so I could make her proud because I loved her, not because I was afraid of her.
Mm,
That's what I think people miss. And that fear that you have that you're trying to control your kids with, that's just going to lead to either them putting you in a nursing home, cutting off ties with you, recognizing that you weren't that good a parent, or having some weird Stockholm syndrome. It's not sustainable. It's not
mm,
sustainable. Love, respect, effective communication, boundaries, expectations, that is sustainable. It's hard work. It's hard
yeah.
work,
Yeah.
but it's sustainable. My
Yeah.
students, they may not always like me, but they love me and respect me because I show my love and respect to them.
Mm, that's good. Yeah,
They
it's
also
easy
fear me
to.
because I'm a giant.
Yeah, it's easy to be aggressive, because it gets what we want in that moment. But when I tried the route of, um, I never spanked my kids, but the whole popping thing, I noticed that simple things that I would do, if they thought that I was getting upset for something they did, you can kind of see them prepare themselves for the consequence. And I knew I was like, something, it ain't right. Like spanking, popping, anything that has to do with inflicting, because it's easy. And I'm gonna be honest, that was my weakness, because if I see, my child about to touch something dangerous, I may kind of get them in the hand and pop them. I couldn't really even when they get older, I can't see myself taking off a belt and swinging at them. But I felt early on as a father that it was okay to do that. Um, and is that normal for anyone to think that way, or is it still wrong for the people who do pop to actually still do it in that way?
So I hear that a lot, actually. Even Dr. Umar Johnson said something recently about the only time he is okay with physical punishment is when it's going to cause harm to themselves or someone else.
Mm,
I challenge that line of thinking. Is it normal? I won't say it's normal. I will say it's human. It's instinctual to a certain
mm,
extent. You want to protect your child from doing something that's going to harm them. All for that. However, if we're looking at it, the best example that I have of that being another excuse is a woman on my TikTok. Her name is Laura Love. I recommend everybody watch her. Amazing,
okay.
amazing woman. She has two boys, and she was teaching her sons that a stove was hot. And her youngest son was about two, a year and a half, two at the time. And she did not let him touch it. She did not put his hand on it. She said, "This is hot." And then she put his hand really close to it so that he could feel the gradient of heat.
Mm,
So he knew that if he kept going, it was going to burn. She used her facial expressions. She communicated effectively based on the level of cognitive ability and language ability he had. And she was able to get the point across that this is hot, don't touch it.
mm,
And he understood it and never touched it. And so I think because we have not been taught another way to do something, or we haven't been creative enough to see another solution, we think this is the only solution. This is how I
makes
learned.
sense.
This is how they're going to learn. It's 2024.
Mm.
We have the whole of the internet. We got Beyonce's internet at our fingertips. It takes nothing for us to just simply look up something, find people
Mm,
like me, read a book on it. Get creative. Most of the stuff that I've had to do, I've had to come up with on the fly because I can't
mm,
put hands on nobody. So that's what I had to learn to do. Anybody can do it, but I think just because something is instinctual to us, that we think that that's okay. Or we think just because it's natural to us, or it's the first thing we think of because it's conditioned, that it's what we should be doing. I wouldn't say that. I would think that that's just a conditioned response. We
mm.
don't have to do it. We can condition ourselves to do something differently.
That's good. So it goes into my next question, which I know is a not completely understood yet in society, but when it comes to gentle parenting, what is gentle parenting? Can you break that down for people so they can understand what that looks like and what that's not? Because I saw a video you put on
Absolutely.
talking about what is not, and I love that. I think it needs to be talked about more.
Absolutely. So there's four styles of parenting. There's authoritarian, which is high expectation, low responsiveness. That's the old school tough love parenting, do as I say, not as I do. I'm gonna bust your head to the white meat type of parenting.
Mm,
Then you have authoritative, which is gentle parenting, which is high expectation, high responsiveness. That's here's my standard. This is where I need you to be, but I'm gonna help you get there, and I'm gonna walk you to the process to understanding how to get here. There's permissive parenting, which is low expectation, high responsiveness. That's the parents that are like, "Oh, little Billy, stop that. I'm gonna count to three. Little Billy, I'm gonna count to three. You better stop. One, two, three. Just do it. Just go ahead." Is that kind of parenting. And then you
mm,
have neglectful parenting, which is low responsiveness, low expectation. The parent isn't there. They're usually playing Call of Duty or something like that, and the kid is just wandering around about to stick a fork in a socket or an outlet or something like that. That's what the four types of parenting styles are, the main styles of parenting. Now, gentle parenting is not just letting your kid do whatever. You are not a free range child when you are gentle parented. You have a parent who has skills that they're trying to impart, tools that they're trying to impart. They're going to show you how to use those tools. They're going to let you try to use them ineffectively, but then guide you to understand how to use them effectively. They're going to teach by concept. This is a concept that you can apply to all these other areas. Let's practice what that looks like. It looks like, hey, my kid is having a tantrum because, their peanut butter and jelly sandwich fell apart. That's cool. I understand that you're upset. Let's practice some self-regulation because you're upset. Hey, I see that you're trying to punch somebody. Now, punching isn't cool where we come from, but I'll show you what you could do instead. You can come over here and punch this pillow. You can
Mm,
go over here and talk about your feelings or write them down. You can go to this corner and, sit here and draw a picture or something. We can go take a walk. We can breathe. But what we're not going to do is put our hands on other people to express our
mm,
frustration when there are other things that we can do instead. And then practicing that multiple times, not doing it once and thinking they're just going to do it,
yeah.
practicing it multiple times, preparing for when they fail, having backup plans, being prepared and
Mm,
consistent. That's what a gentle parent looks like.
yeah, I like that. I was telling my wife the other day, eventually I want my son to go to the gym with me and work out with me. He's 1 right now. Uh, but I told my wife, I said, right now, the version that we have of working out with our children is that discipline, that guidance. My wife was cooking in the kitchen, and I got to the point where I told my son, hey, you need to sit down on the couch, because if he's up walking around, it could be dangerous. Him in the kitchen, he want to talk about some eat for like a whole 20 minutes. So if he sits down on the couch, he's usually more calm. Sometimes he'll get up from the couch, and my wife would get upset, and I told her, I said, we have to keep doing this over and over again. It's like a repetitiveness. Like, he gets up, put him back down. He gets, because in the past I'll be quick to be like, boy, sit down. What are you doing? Like, do not get back up. But I can't do that. I have to be on this journey with him. So he gets up, put him back down. Get up, put it back down. I keep explaining, hey, you need to sit down. Eventually, he gets it. Kids, they don't have nothing better else to do than figure things out, getting in trouble, getting into stuff. But eventually they get tired out too. They may cry or whatever, but I rather them listen to me without me having to put my hands on them like that than me be concerned about their crying on the couch. We'll worry about that later. They'll grow out of that. But, I noticed that a lot of people don't seem to um, have that resilience, and when you decide to have kids, this is something you sign up for, whether you like it or not. You sign up for that consistency. You sign up, with it being 11 o'clock at night and your son or your daughter actually took a nap during the day or a little bit too late. Now you got to constantly put them back in the bed or figure out ways to get them to relax, And so I love that we can explain this through the authoritative versus authoritarian, so we can figure out exactly how we can be as parents. So
Mhm.
another question I have for you, that I feel like is very important if we're going to talk about the authoritative and authoritarian parenting style. Is there a way to balance the two? Because obviously you don't want to be, as a father, right? Especially, if you're a single father, um, you don't want to lean too much more to the left or too much to the right. What's the best way that we can balance both of these parenting styles, especially if you're a single father, but also if you're married and you just don't want to look like the bad guy all the time, but you also don't want to be a pushover and let things slide. How can we balance those two, or is it even possible?
Well, that's actually funny you say that because authoritative parenting is that middle ground,
Mm,
right? So it's not the permissive, it's not the authoritarian, but with authoritative, you are the authority. You have your boundaries, you have your expectations. You can establish firm. I, so I'm from the hood, right? I'm gonna keep it a buck. I'm from Atlanta. I'm from the hood. I'm from the SWATs, right? And so the hood comes out if I'm at work or I'm working with my kid over here and they doing something I don't like. Hey, yo, so that's not what we doing.
yeah.
We're doing this. I hear all of that. You can feel how you feel. You are more than welcome to feel how you feel. What I said is, this is what we're doing. Now, you can feel all of that in a minute
Mm,
after we get done with this. You can have your little frustration while you're doing this. This kitchen needs to be clean
yeah.
because you made a mess. So clean up this kitchen and you can grumble and have all your little moment as long as my kitchen get clean. You can totally be that firm parent, respect the child, but then also be the person who lets them know that the boundaries exist, that the consequences exist, the expectations exist, and I'm
Hmm.
gonna help you get there. But also, don't try my gangster.
Mm.
I am 6'8". I'm a martial artist. I am about that life. I ain't gonna put my
You
hands
six
on
foot
you.
eight?
Yeah, I'm 6'8".
Oh shoot, you're tall, man. I'm only 6'4".
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. That's still pretty tall.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's true. I'm not used to being people around people taller than me. So, so it's
Neither am I.
I know you definitely not. So
But that
okay, cool.
that's the middle ground. The middle ground is authoritative parenting. It's
Mm.
not, you don't have to go too far in either direction. It's literally firm boundaries. You're the authority. You hold the power. If I don't have to pay the bills and the lights can get cut off, all you are one phone call away from me shutting everything down in your life. You like that phone? One phone call, your phone will be off. I'm the authority. And it's just knowing that.
So you have a son yourself, right? And
Yep.
what's it's biological, or because I know you had
Foster.
mentioned foster. Um, what because I know there's fostering is a huge thing for a lot of parents. Matter of fact, me and my wife talked too. We got 4 kids. We got three, one on the way. And I said I want 5 kids, but
Congratulations.
that's thank you. It's not up to me for any more. Yeah, I said I want
He said
five, but
five.
yeah, but I told her, it's completely up to her. But I'm okay with adopting too. I did not have a big family, so I just, I would love to have a big family, looking like Cheaper by the Dozen, movie or something like that. We all go on a vacation, is lit, you know. But so I want to foster one day too. And my parents fostered years ago, this little girl. And it was a very interesting experience. Not much that I remember that well because I was younger, but for those who wants to foster, how do you introduce that authoritative, authoritarian, that balance into that relationship without seeming? Is it any different than biological children, or do you treat it different because it's not, per se blood or your biological child?
It's a little different only because you need to be trauma informed.
Mm,
A lot of kids who are in foster care are coming from very traumatized environments. And not to say that biological kids couldn't as well, but in this case, they could be at a whole different degree of trauma.
mm,
And it's important for you to practice a lot of patience, and a lot of boundaries and expectations and consequences, both positive and negative, for these kids. This isn't like, getting yelling at them and fighting with them and all that stuff. No, it's just making sure they understand. Hey, one, you're in a safe environment. I love you. I'm gonna give you all the loving that you could ever possibly want. However, with that love also is included these responsibilities, these expectations, these boundaries. If you want to stay here and you want to enjoy your time here, you have to abide by these rules that I'm setting out, because they're for your safety as well as my safety. If there's that any type of step pushing of those boundaries, okay, well, here's a consequence for that. And so, but it's also recognizing that there is going to be pushback. There is going to be, um, you're not my dad. There's going to be that pushback of, I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to try to, there's going to be pushback. But that's where that patience has to come in, because you're also dealing with kids who may feel really rejected. And a part of rejection is pushing other people away before they have a chance to push them back. It also looks like giving a lot of positive reinforcement that they may not have ever had. They may have only had people berating them and giving them negative consequences. And if you come up giving positive reinforcement for all of the wonderful things that they do, yo, you cleaned up your whole bathroom. Yo, man, what? You know what? For that, you get to pick where we're going to eat tonight. Man, you
mm,
just got an A on your report card. What? Yo, we going ice skating on me. Real tip. It's doing stuff like that to let them know that they're valued, that they're wanted, that the good things that they do comes with even better things. And even if they mess up, oh, you got a D. Did you try your best? All right, I feel you. Okay, look, we're gonna get you a tutor. We're gonna work it out. I'm still proud of you. As long as you try, I love that. Let's try a little bit harder. We're gonna get your help that you need. But it's putting them in a place where they feel like they're valued and they're loved. So it is a little different, but it's stuff you should be doing with your children as well anyway. It's just going to have to be tweaked a little bit, and you have to add a little bit more patience because they are coming from environments that could be more traumatized.
yeah, I can definitely agree with that, and that's important. I to know a little bit about trauma, a little bit about it's a huge responsibility taking on someone else in your home because they come with baggage. Just like you would if you get into a relationship. Like everybody has their own baggage, and the last thing we need to do is put them down for their past. And I love what you said about more looking at the consequences versus, or looking at the reward versus the consequences. I definitely do that with my children. Um, when they do something, whether they bring home certain grades, I don't say, hey, if you don't get your grades up, you're going to fail. You're not going to do well in school. You may not get this grade in college. Instead, I say, hey, if you bring your grades up, you're going to be able to do well in college. You're going to be able to, feel good about yourself, feel good about your accomplishment. Because so many times, we're trying to point fingers at the negative aspect of it. And eventually it may just desensitize them. Because I know for me, when I was in school, I struggled through school when I was in elementary school. And every time I, brought a bad grade home, I would get spanked, and I would keep bringing bad grades home to the point where they just said, you know what, a D's fine. He'll be successful because we can't keep beating him for, with this, So,
Yeah.
it didn't work for me. At this point, I knew, bring this guy. I know what's about to happen. Let me get ready now, let me ready my, my breathing or whatever. Because at that point, I just knew what was going to happen. But um, I love the idea of looking more at the positive. I'd really try to get my kids to always keep their mind positive. And so, which that being said, one thing that I learned about children is, mirror neurons that suggest that, children learn effectively through imitation. They see, they repeat. And I always tell fathers that it's important to model the, that of what you want to see with your children. And so, how can parents, in your opinion, how can parents model calmness and positive behavior to provide a powerful learning tool for their children instead of always feeling like they need to aggressively put them in their place? What are ways that we can do to keep ourselves calm, to keep ourselves um, from, having that fear of someone else dealing with them later on? How can we, on our end, do what we can without resorting to aggressiveness?
So a lot of it is intentionality. You have to be intentional with everything that you do.
Mm,
Everything that you do has to be intentional. And that's because they are watching you. Kids
mm,
are sponges. They're going to see what you do and they're not necessarily going to pay attention to what you say. And if you say something that contradicts, they will point it out. My students do it all the time. Kids do it all the time. Well, you just said, I know what I said. Shut up.
mm,
But when you are intentional with what you're saying, the kids are going to see that. If you are intentional with staying calm when you are frustrated, and my God, teaching seventh grade has been the most challenging. I know I can be patient, but these kids push me to the edge of my patience. I ask God, Lord, don't give me strength. Give me patience, because if you give me strength, I might throw one at these children. It's natural. Sometimes I feel it. And so I have to take that step back and I have to breathe.
mm,
And I have to be intentional with respecting them even in the midst of disrespect. I have to be intentional about what I say around kids, even to other adults, because I never know what that kid is looking at. It would
mm,
be remiss of me to get into an altercation with another human being, another adult, and talk to this adult in a very um, offensive way and expect a child who looks up to me, literally and figuratively, not to do the same thing to another student. A lot of kids are mimicking what their parents have done or what they've seen other adults that they love do. The TikTok dances, because of people emulating something, celebrities emulating, people that they'll do it, monkey see, monkey do kind of thing. So we have to be intentional more than anything about every action that we take to be the best model for the kids. If you don't know what to do, there's books on it. I've written a book on it. Other people have written books on it. I'm looking at 3 right here on my desk
mm.
of people who have given their time to write things that you can do to help you just regulate, self-regulate. I'm teaching a coaching course on the same thing, on how to self-regulate. And that's so that you can learn it so you can model it to your kids. So intentionality.
That's awesome. um, as I said before, everybody we're on Law 4, and Law 4 is a modern day as emotionally intelligent. And there's a reason why I wrote these in here when it came to, what this involves in this particular law. It says he recognized the importance of self-awareness, empathy. Through consistent self-reflection, open communication, he creates strong emotional connection with his children, committed to emotional growth and enhancing both his personal well-being and the quality of the relationships within his family. This is emotional intelligence, and it has a this is why I fitted in this one, because being self-aware and having empathy is so important, because as much as I want to get onto my child about certain things, and I was actually talking to this with another guest, we were talking about that, we have to be more understanding with our children, because if they're learning and stuff and we're sitting here and attacking them during their progress, it's almost like us going to a new job or volunteering somewhere and trying to learn that job. We don't want our boss in here attacking us. It's a learning process. And because we know better, sometimes we forget. And so that's what that empathizing comes in. And so I love that. And I know that you would agree that the first step of anything is self-awareness, knowing exactly what you're feeling about it, how you're being triggered, because trigger is such a huge thing when it comes to spanking, like I'm triggered, I see it all the time with single moms, sad to say, but they're quick to swing on their children. Like, I mean, back here, and I know it's tough because especially if you don't have a man around, it's hard to get that authoritative, or that control or influence over them without having to assert yourself, and it's sad, but this is exactly why I tell people all the time, like, hey, we need fathers, we need these fathers around, because it's from the way we look to the way we sound. Everything plays a huge role in how these children respond to us. My unborn baby right now, if I get really like, hey, Angel, his name's Angel, I'll be like, hey, he'll start moving and grooving. You just see a little feet and hands sticking out. It's disgusting. But, but it's precious though. But I love how he responds to my voice, and I think it's so important, father. So real quick, I kind of feel led. Fathers, if you're hearing this right now and you really don't know the importance of you being there, it is so important. We need you there. If you're feeling like leaving, if you're feeling like you can't give up, please talk to somebody. Reach out to Gabriel. You know what I'm saying? Like, reach out to me, reach out to anybody, because, we need you to understand this knowledge, and we need you to be there, once you're there, to understand it. So I love that. I like to close with two questions. And the first question is, what message do you have that you want to share to the world? To everyone's listening, what message do you have to share for that father who's maybe he's kind of like at loss at what he should do as a father?
In the words of Auntie Jennifer Lewis, get your healing.
Mm,
Go see about
mm,
yourself. Go to therapy.
mm,
Go to therapy. Do you have an inner child? As much as you've tried to suppress your inner child, you have an inner child. That part of you that wants to go and run, the part of you that wants to, jump rope, play four square, hit the tether. Go see about yourself, because there's probably a wound that you have in your inner child that's prohibiting you from seeing the fullness of you as a father. And when you heal that inner child, and this is something I'm even doing now, you get to see yourself at your full self as you should. And you would be astonished at what you might think that your younger self would see of your current self. So go see
mm.
about yourself. Go get some healing. Go to therapy. Go find a good therapist. It don't have to get the first one. Shop around for a good therapist. Give it a good try. Keep an open mind with it. But go see about yourself. Get the help that you need. It's not in the bottle. It's not in yelling. It's not in, just sucking it up and being a man. It's getting help. It's talking to somebody that you can trust. That will change a lot. That will break generational patterns. I promise.
Yeah, that's good. And if you you can't afford therapy or counseling, whatever, join a community, because accountability, it plays a huge role. I always say too is I wish I had something like this in my beginning of my journey of being a father. It would have helped me, prevent a lot of things and issues as a father. So I love that. Definitely healing. People ask me, what do you do? I'm a healer. That's everything else are just tools for me to help, but I'm a healer. I'm a huge fan of remembering that child inside. More men need to cry. It's okay. Find someone you can trust, you can cry with. We all need to allow ourselves to express ourselves as if we're chill. And on top of that, studies have shown too, when you jump around with your children, you act as if you're a child. That actually even slows down your aging, in a way. Meditation and just being as childlike as possible. And so, and if you don't know how to do that, it's real easy. When you see your kids playing with toys I even bought me a toy from Cracker Barrel just so I can play with my kids. And they said, Daddy, can I said, no, it's my toy. I'll share it with you, but I'm going to need my toy back by the end of the day, because if we're going to play, I want my little character. So, yeah, when you see your kids, just get down there, play with them, run around with them. If my daughters want to run around and be Elsa, I'm going to put a cape on and run around and be Anna. So, it's a beautiful thing, and it's a good way to remember. My second question is, where can people, it's a part question. I want to know where people can find you. Talk about, because I saw you had an event or a session, a workshop or something coming up soon. And also too, do you have a community that someone can join as well?
All right. So if you want to find me, one, you can find me on all social media platforms. And by all, I mean like literally TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, _indomitable_black man. It sounds funny, but it's my username. I do have an event coming up. It is a free webinar coaching, virtual coaching. It's just going to be on self-regulation. You cannot really work with your kids if you cannot self-regulate. So that's like the basis of it. I'll be teaching people how to self-regulate. It's just an overview. It's actually going to be the introductory part of my actual coaching that I'll be doing. It's a 12-week coaching program where I'll be taking parents through understanding how to emotionally regulate, and like emotionally regulate. I'm gonna have you being like me with emotion regulation.
Wow.
In addition, I'm also, I'll tell you later.
Okay. I like surprises.
Can't tell you, but I'll tell you later.
Well, I'll make sure you let me know.
Save the date, August 9th through the 11th. Just save that date.
Okay, and once you release that information, make sure you let me know so I can post it so everyone can see. But cool, awesome, something to look forward to. Where'd you get the name from, the handle for your social media?
The Indomitable Black Man.
Yeah.
So before it was Drapetomaniac.
Okay.
I love the concept of being drapetomatic. Basically, it was a mental illness that slaves would get when they felt like they wanted to run away to freedom. And I was like, yo, that's amazing. What? That's a mental illness I want, yeah.
Wow.
And then as I grew up, I recognized that things do not hold me down. I've been homeless. I have been like literally at the bottom of the bottom, and nothing got me down. I wasn't supposed to be alive. I could have taken myself out. I wasn't supposed to be born. Here I am. I am indomitable, and I'm a black man. Unapologetically. So I am the Indomitable Black Man.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's cool. Well, make sure y'all follow him. If you're on TikTok, which I know you are, go ahead and make sure you follow him, because all his content is great. I love the reposts and stuff, and he doesn't sit here and try to put anyone down, but he truly tries to educate, a heart for education. So make sure you're following him on Instagram and on TikTok. Gabriel, man, I am so humbled that you agreed to come on here. We definitely need to chop it up again on a recording. Maybe break down some different things that maybe you feel compelled to talk about too. But I would love to have you on. I know other people would. I know it's been enjoyable, and man, just thank you. I appreciate it.
You were so welcome. The honor was all mine, sir. I appreciate you.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for listening. If this is triggering, good, because that's only a sign that you have to look inward and figure out why you feel the way you do. It's not easy to get away what we're used to, because the reptilian brain wants to keep us safe. It wants us to keep us in what's familiar, because that's what's safe. But we have to understand that not always what we think is safe for everybody else around us. So educate yourself, follow people like Gabriel, follow people, that we share on our Facebook page. This will keep you in the web of different belief systems that we agree with, that you can trust, because, life is not getting any easier. We got a huge generational gap where children are on social media, and that makes us more frustrated because we don't understand the gap in between. And so we just have to make sure that we are holding ourselves accountable. We are with people in a community that is holding us accountable, because it's not impressive to sit here and do it on your own. It's impressive. I had a friend, the guy that was supposed to come on to talk with us. I was kind of going over some show notes earlier, and he told me that his son called him and said that he appreciates him for helping him become a man. And I feel like any father that receives a text, he has an older son, any father that receives a text from his older son, his adult son, saying, I thank you for everything you've done, for teaching me, for being a man, deserves a trophy. So I'm going to make sure I get this man a trophy. I'm out to Amazon it or something, because that's what I love to see. That's what we need, as we grow, because now he's going to take those same principles and raise his children, the way he should be. So I love it. But you're making the first step by listening to this podcast, by listening to us. So just keep pushing, keep educating yourself. Make sure you check out Gabriel's book as well, which you can find it on. Is it on Amazon or where is
The
it
best
located?
place to get it is the book patch.
Okay.
That's the best place to get it. Amazon is
Oh,
damn.
enough said. We- I got it. So, but yes, this is parenting, demystifying parenting. Make sure you check it out. But thank you so much. And like I always say here in the Modern Dad Society podcast, is make sure you be conscious, stay present always. I will see you next time on the Modern Dad Society podcast. Be blessed.